2020, never happened. Best speed cubes of 2021. Starting with 2x2. Here are all the cubes I think are worth having as your main if you are very good at 2x2. I don't think you should spend $30 on a 2x2. Get out of here, Gan. Alright, for the rest of them, my top 3 recommendations are the MGC Elite at $20, the MGC at $10, and the Yupo V2 M at $7. My personal favorite is the MGC Elite. The MGC Elite and Yupo V2 are very, very fast cubes and can be hard to control, but I think that's not really a big deal for the control aspect, and that's because on bigger cubes like 3x3, 4x4, the cube itself can feel flimsy and moves on its own, while for 2x2, you're pretty much holding everything. So the only thing that would be hard to control is how fast the cube turns. And if a cube is too fast, there's a simple fix: put in some slower lube. Now, I also recommend the MGC because it is cheap, and if you're going for your first 2x2, this is a great option as it's kind of moderate in all aspects. If you have specific preferences you know of, you may not choose this cube, but I think everyone would like it, which makes it a very safe option. The Valk is a little harder to set up, but is really great. The TengYun is quite easy to set up. It doesn't end up being quite as great, but it also is very quiet, and you may value that. The X-Man Flare, I have not tried it. It is only on this list because I've heard it is very good, and it's quite cheap, and I'm going to try it soon, so stay tuned for that. For budget 2x2, do we really need this category? I'm just gonna throw the MeiLong on there. It's okay, it's not great, but it is $4. All right, next is 3x3. There are too many 3x3s! Why are there so many of these? Why isn't there just a best one? Well, they all have subtle differences, and a lot of them come down to your own preferences. If you are newer to cubing or you don't know what your preferences are, then just think of all the ones you may like and pick the cheapest one, or pick the one that really speaks to your heart. Don't feel pressured to find the exact one for you, as there may be at least 5 that are equally good for you, and your preferences will change over time. The GAN 11 is very fast and light, but because of its core magnets, it is more stable than you would expect. The GAN XS has a very tactile feel and works well when fast or slow. The Valk Elite works well set to a moderate speed. It is very stable, but it is kind of horrible to customize. The Air SM is very fast and very stable, but it has worse corner cutting. The ZhiLong WR M is fast, smooth, and can be very hard to control. The ZhiLong WR M 2020 is super duper fast, and that may or may not be a good thing. The 354M version 2 is, I think, the best 54mm cube. The GTS 3M works quite well at moderate to fast speed. It is quite stable, but it has ridges, so that makes it feel larger, and some people really don't like that. The TengYun version 2 is fast and flexible, not amazing, but it has this really soft feel that some people really like. The TengYun is the quietest cube. It is also very fast and flexible, and it has really good slice moves. The MGC Elite is the cheapest cube that is highly customizable, it is fast, and it is flexible. All of the cubes I've highlighted are ones that I think are the best for what it does. For example, you're not going to find a cube quieter or with better slice moves on this list than the TengYun. But if you don't care about those things and you just want a pretty fast cube, then you can get the GAN 11. And of course, these are just my recommendations. I think every cube on this list is really good. These are just the ones I like more. Now we get to the budget 3x3s. My main recommendation here is the RS3M 2020. I think this cube is amazing. It's such a great price. It doesn't feel cheap. And you can say that maybe about the QiYi MS as well, but the RS3M 2020 also comes with a customization system, so you can change its speed and feel without buying a different cube. Since this is a cube I really believe in, and if you're getting into speed cubing, I highly recommend this. Speedcube Shop has actually made a JPerm RS3M 2020, which is pre-set up in terms of the customization and the lube exactly the way I like it. So if you're new to cubing and a lot of this stuff is overwhelming, you can get that, and every purchase of this cube directly supports this channel. Now, there's also another category, budget non-magnetic. So again, here's the $4 MeiLong, just like for 2x2. All right, 3x3 was pretty huge, but now let's dial it back. 4x4 is much more straightforward, and I have 3 main recommendations. The AoChuang WR M is $42, and it is my main. Now, at the much better price of $20, there is the YJ MGC 4x4, which if I had to main, I wouldn't complain too much. I just think it's slightly worse in that it is 60mm instead of 59, which I prefer 59, and there's something about the turning that I just don't quite like as much, but if you haven't personally tried both, then I just go for the YJ MGC as it is the safer bet. And of course, what the heck, why is there a $12 YJ Jisoo Mini 4x4? This Mini 4x4 is actually 56 millimeters, which is the same size as most 3x3s, but for some reason it's amazing. And for reference, I'm an adult, but my hands are not that big. If you have big hands for an adult, this is not going to work for you. But if you're younger with smaller hands, this cube may actually be the best one for you, just because the performance is great and the size would fit you more. And when a cube is smaller like this, you can actually do more similar to 3x3 finger tricks without problems. For budget 4x4s, I think the best one is the $11 MeiLong M, and it's nice that this is the cheapest magnetic one as well. The Mini 4x4 is here as well, but of course that only works if you can deal with its size, but just generally speaking, I would go for the MeiLong. For 5x5, here are your best options. The AoChuang WR M, I think, is a little too fast and too flexible and just really weird to use for 5x5. It is sort of similar to the 4x4, but for some reason I feel like it doesn't work here, so I would not recommend it, but I know a lot of people do like it. Then there's the YJ MGC at only $22, which is putting some budget cubes to shame. Yes, it is magnetic, and yes, it is amazing. I'd put it at the same level as the Valk, as tied for the best. I do equally well on both of them. The MGC is faster, the Valk is more controllable, and I'm more comfortable on the Valk, which is why I still use that, but I would not complain if I had to use the MGC. And then again, there's a YJ Mini Cube here. It is very cheap at only $15, but it is 58 millimeters, which is even smaller than most 4x4s. So this cube makes sense if you want a cheap cube or your hands are small enough to really use it, but I personally would not recommend it for most people. And of course, my best recommendation here is the YJ MGC. For budget 5x5, I don't even think you should get one of these. I think there's still a pretty big difference between these cubes and the YJ MGC. If you had to get one of these, I would say get the MeiLong M, as it's the cheapest, and it's just understand it's not going to be that great. You may not fall in love with 5x5 by using a budget cube, but at least it's a cheap one to get you started. And then budget non-magnetic, there's the MeiLong again. 6x6 is really straightforward. Get the YJ MGC. It is $25. I don't care what your price range is, get this one. Okay, it's not that clear. Let me mention the Shadow version 2. It is $45, and in my experience, it is clearly worse than the MGC. However, some people have told me that it just takes forever to break in, and once you do that, it is better than the MGC. And while I like to be thorough with my reviews and make sure I've used a cube for long enough, 1,000 6x6 solves is just off the table. I'm not gonna do that. So if that's what it takes to make this better than the MGC, then I'm just gonna say the MGC is the best one. For budget 6x6, there's the $16 QiYi V2 M. I mentioned in my cube collection video I didn't have this, but my sources tell me that it is the best budget 6x6. If you look for any 6x6 cheaper than this, it is just not worth it, so I would say go for this one. For 7x7, again, get the YJ MGC, it is $35. I think the only other cube worth considering is the Spark at $60, so already a huge difference. It is slower, and being slow is very bad on a big cube. It pops slightly less, and it is slightly smaller. I don't think that's worth the price difference, and those qualities aside, the MGC is better, it's easier to turn, it's faster, and I get much better times on it. For budget 7x7, there's the $20 QiYi V2 M. This cube is very, very good. I would say this is pretty much your only good option here. I used to include the Little Magic as well, but I've changed my mind on that. And for budget non-magnetic, again, I don't think it's worth getting this. Okay, next is the non-cubic puzzles. Obviously, I am super qualified to talk about this stuff. Starting with Pyraminx, I can't speak too much on these. The QiYi MS is great, it's quite stable, and the GAN Pyraminx, it corner cuts better. I had one unboxing where I went more into that and compared them, so go check that out if you want. For clock, there is the $35 QiYi clock. If you're new to cubing and you have no clue what I'm talking about right now, go watch my tutorial, give me that ad revenue. If you want a cheaper clock, I don't know, just don't get a clock. It's not gonna be nearly as good anyway, and you're probably not gonna have that much fun. Is it even fun with a QiYi clock? For square one, I'm pretty sure the two best are the Volt V2 and the Little Magic. For Megaminx, I don't know. For Scube, I don't have one. Every puzzle I've talked about is going to be listed in the description, and make sure to use the discount code JPerm at Speedcube Shop to get a discount on your order. Thank you to Speedcube Shop for constantly sending new packages to my door so I can let you guys know what cubes are good and what's not. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.